Yeah, good afternoon, friends. Today I'm going to discuss about how reservations have been implemented in central universities. So, I happen to have a look at this great thesis by Anupam Yadav, which analyzes the impact and outcome of reservation policies in central universities in India. Friends, I have to tell you that this thesis is a landmark thesis and it covers various aspects of central universities, and I was thrilled to read this thesis for the last 1 week, and I really wanted to share some insights from this thesis to you all because it's very important for everyone to know what's happening about the reservations in central universities. As you all know, central universities are places of higher education that create leaders. Like, for example, there are central universities, state universities, deemed universities. But traditionally in India, we see that the central universities have produced like great leaders, great industrialists, and people from central universities have migrated to other countries like US, Europe, and then they have succeeded a lot. So, in this aspect, the role of central universities in higher education is important, and access to these central universities for SC, ST, OBCs actually gives an indication of how many people are ready, are available in the pool for future leadership in this country. So now first let me deep dive into this report because this is a very big report. I cannot discuss everything in this. So I am going to take few important points and then and show you how the reservation policies in central universities have been implemented. So the first thing which I'm going to talk about is gross enrollment ratio. See, gross enrollment ratio in higher education. So whenever you are talking about gross enrollment ratio, what is that? What do we mean by? See, we all know that gross enrollment ratio in higher education means what? Like, for example, you take how many students have got enrolled in graduate programs and then divided by total number of students who are there in 18 to 23 years. So I came to this now. So you can see here. So you can see that. So there's a great report called All India Survey of Higher Education report which publishes this gross enrollment ratio every year for the age group 18 to 23. So the table indicates few important points. So what does this indicate? See, if you take the total population, so in 11-12 it was around 20.8 gross enrollment ratio. That is, if you take 100 students, 20.8 students enrolled in any graduate programs between 18 to 23 years. So that is what it indicates. And that increased to 27.1% in 1920. So that's a remarkable achievement because it's increasing year on year. Now, the greatest increase, if you can see, is in the scheduled caste communities. Like, for example, in 11-12 it was low at 14.9%, but we are seeing a remarkable improvement to 23.4%, which is almost higher by 8.5%. So this shows that the pool of people from SCs, that is Dalits, who are getting into the graduate programs is actually increasing. Now coming to the STs. Now let us take the STs next. You see, the STs were very low at 11% of the population, but it has increased to 18%. So this is also a remarkable achievement, and then we can see that the proportions are actually increasing in both SCs and STs. Now, but is it good? Is this good enough? This probably may not be good enough because we have to see what is the gross enrollment ratio world over. World over, the gross enrollment ratio is around 36.3%. While in countries like America, it is as high as 88.3%. And if you take the blacks, there in America, the gross enrollment ratio is much higher than 50%. So the immediate target now for us should be that this gross enrollment ratio should rise to around 50% in the overall population and even in SC/STs. So we can see that it is not very much different from the rest of the population. So now the pool of the SC/ST graduates is increasing, and this is actually a great thing which happens, because see what happens is initially the cutoffs were being stretched in many examinations, because like for example, if you take the UPSC, SSC or any government examination, the cutoffs used to be stretched, and then we never used to find people for filling up those vacancies. But that problem will not be there now, because there's a sufficiently large pool of SC/STs who are coming in, and once they are put into the system for 4 years, 5 years, they catch up, and then they start performing very well. So let us now look at one more important table in this report, which is the category wise composition of students. Now here, if you can see, again the percentages of OBC, SC/STs have remarkably increased from 11-12 to 19-20. So it's a great improvement. And then you can see that especially in the OBCs there is a rise of 7% from 30.1%. Then in the SCs also it has risen from 12.2% to 14.7%, which is almost nearing to their population percentages. But one thing is that in OBCs there is a controversy that it should be much more than 37%, because the OBC population is almost like 52% in this country. So the rough estimate of this composition should be around 52%, but there is a gap there. So many people argue that that gap should be filled up. Now, one aspect which I was very much surprised is the Muslim minorities. So you know that 2011 census, it told that the Muslim population was around 14.2% of the total population. Now this 14.2% of the population is producing just 5.6%, like less than 5.5% graduates. So this is a problem. So there's a big gap here. Now one of the argument is that they need to be given reservation, that is short. Now the Muslims are covered under OBCs. So that in many states they are covered under OBCs. You have the Arzals and Ajlaf Muslims who are covered under the OBCs. But what does this indicate? It indicates that probably the initial education which is given to the Muslims is not that great. So they are not able to compete with other OBCs. So this needs a relook, because the inequalities are stark in this minority groups. So anyway, let me now go on to few more important points which gives you some exciting data of how the reservation policies in central universities have been implemented. See, as you all know that every central universities have a mandated reservation policy of 15% for SCs, 7.5% for STs, and 27% for OBCs. Now roughly there are around 40 central universities, but we are going to discuss only about 29 central universities here, which the data is available here. And then so out of this 29 central universities, what is noticed is that only one Hyderabad Central University had enrollment ratios of SC, ST, OBCs more than the reserved seats. So I'm going to explain this in a more detailed way using a concept, and the author here uses a brilliant technique called Reservation Implementation Index. So he has brought in something called a reservation implemented or not. I will explain this with a very simple example to you all. Like, for example, for SCs, the total reservation achieved is, let us assume, 13% in one of the central universities, while the mandated reservation is 15%. So what is RII, Reservation Implementation Index? The Reservation Implementation Index is 13 by 15. That is 0.867, which is less than 1. Now, if the achieved value is 5%, what will be the RII? 5 by 15. So that will be 0.3, which is very, very small. Now, the optimum policy is 15 by 15, that is 1. So, if the representation is achieved more than 20%, so if there are 20% SCs, what does that mean? 20 by 15, 1.33. So So what we got was, for every category we can get a reservation implementation index. Similarly, we can compute a reservation implementation index for STs. We can compute a reservation implementation index for OBCs. So this is what the author has done, and this is how he has computed SC quota, ST quota, OBC quota. So now the reservation implementation index is taken as a geometric mean of all this indicator value. So there is a slight debate on why arithmetic mean and geometric mean, which is better. So now globally it is now understood that the geometric mean is a better indicator for such skewed data or anything. Like, for example, geometric mean gives a better understanding of how the indices are working. So even if you take the human development report, most of them use the geometric mean. So using that, we have, the author has stated that the reservation implementation index, the geometric mean of all the reservation implementation index, gives a better indicator. Now what is the broad interpretation of RII? So if the RII is less than 0.5, then the reservation implementation is very, very bad. Now if the RII is between 0.5 to 1, then the implementation is average and probably in line with the policies. RII above 1, it's a great implementation, and many SC, ST, OBC students actually are taking merit seats in this. Now, out of 29 central universities, it is very clear that I already discussed that around 17 central universities were not able to fill up the entire reserved seats. But however, we are going to give the data for all the central universities and do a detailed comparison. The author has done a great work here, and then I have to tell you that he has taken the data from 2015 to 2019 and computed for all the central universities. So here you can see that the RII for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 is computed. Then the average of it is taken for every, that is called the composite reservation implementation index. Now once the composite reservation implementation index is done, then the entire averaging is done for all the universities, and then you can see finally that around 0.857 is the composite reservation implementation index. What does that mean? It means that 85.7% of the seats were filled, the reserved seats were filled, and 14.3% remained vacant. So this number may be alarming to you all, but what I am telling you, but we should see the improvement here, because see, in 2015 this was around 79.1 and it has improved to 90.8%. So what we are seeing is that the issue of seats going vacant is actually coming down. And then more and more seats from the reserve category is getting filled up, and this is actually a great thing to happen for reserve categories, because the pool of graduate students are actually increasing in these categories, and this will be very important because these students will be more competitive, and then they will get into top examinations with higher cutoffs, and most of them may also make it into merit list without any reservation. So this is one important thing which is coming out of this. Now if you see here, however, in this, like this group, the top group which is less than 0.5, so you can see the Central University of Kashmir, Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Garhwal University, Central University of South Bihar, Central University of Tamil Nadu, all have less than 0.5. I was really surprised about Central University of Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu has a reservation policy of 69%. But surprisingly, we see that the CRII is very less. It's the reserved category students seats are going vacant here, and that is something very much surprising to me. Even in University of Delhi, it is around 0.7, but you must see. But if you see, I'll come to University of Delhi later. If you see Central University of Tamil Nadu in 15, it was very, very low. It was only 27.1% of the reservation was given, but it actually increased to 1.001 in 2019. So what has happened is the representation in Tamil Nadu Central University of Tamil Nadu was very less initially, but now it has increased to 1.001. So this is actually good according to me, but the reasons why the seats were not filled up should be examined. So we need to see why the seats were not filled up earlier on in 2015. 19 it is getting filled up. So most of the organizations have started doing well, except few organizations like, for example, Central University of Kashmir, Maulana Azad. Like, these universities are minority institutions, and then they are protected under the constitution that reservation policies are not applicable for them. So Kashmir again was a very autonomous state, and then but however now the policies are changing here. So in the coming years this may actually improve. Now we have to say that, see, this data is still 2019. Now if you look at 2023, probably this might have increased much better. My estimate is that the CRRI for all the central universities may be around 0.9 presently, because if you see this year, every year it was 0.9 in 2019 itself, so now it might have gone up to 95% complete. So the most of the reserved seats might be filled up in the current year. Now, however, my interest was more in the other universities, especially the bottom ones. If you see here, the Jawaharlal Nehru University gave more seats to SC/STs. That is, their CRI is more than 1.032. Then similarly, the case for Indira Gandhi National IGNTU, where it is 1.573. Then Hyderabad Central University also was very good with 1.206, and so on. So there are many universities where many students are getting on their own merit. That is, the percentage of representation is more than 50%. Now let me take one such case and then show you how this actually works. Now in Hyderabad Central University, you can see like this table. What does this indicate? This table indicates how many reserved category students got admitted on unreserved category seat. That is, in government language we call this own merit. That is, they got it under their own merit. They did not use reservation. So if you see this in the PG courses, you can see around 17.29% of the students in PG courses got on their own merit. They did not use any reservation. In MTech, they got 15.28% on own merit. They did not use reservation. In MPhil courses, 12.49% got these seats on their own merit. PhD courses, 17.99 students got on their own merit. Now, if you use this, roughly, if you take 16.72% of the SC/STs, OBCs got on their own merit, and a total of 66.22% SC/STs were able to secure in the universities, which is actually nearing to their population. So as we move more and more towards the population matching with the representation in the graduates, we are creating actually a great pool for this country to develop, and especially a great development for the SC/ST OBCs as well. So now one aspect is that, like, see, many a times the issue of dropouts comes in. Yes, the author has done some analysis and he tells us that there may be around 5% dropouts in all this higher education. But this higher education, that is mainly because they may be joining other institutes, even jobs. They may be going abroad and many other reasons. So, but that requires a deeper investigation on why these students are dropping out. This is a very complex topic, and then there are quite a few suicides also. So, but this requires a more in-depth investigation and then findings, which the author has not got into this thesis. So this thesis has not got into those aspects of why people are dropping out, and that requires probably a much more deeper study. Now, one more important thing, but here we have to understand that what we learned from the Hyderabad Central University case is that there are more number of students getting on their own merit. It is not that we don't have students getting on their own merit at all. Like, it is not that all the students need reservation. So now again, the author here, he uses a beautiful case study of University of Delhi to understand what is the impact of reservations. He builds an hypothetical model for the DU entrance examination for 47 subjects. See, here the entrance examination is taken by all the candidates, the master entrance examination. So he downloaded all the mark sheets, and then what he did was he created a merit list purely based on marks. He removed off all the category and then arranged them in the descending order of marks, highest marks to lowest marks, and found out how many people from SC, ST, OBC would have got if reservation were not there. So this is one important point which he did. So this is what he got. So you can see, if you had arranged everything wise, rank wise admission without any categorization, so you can see that. So 270 out of 2752, the around 2063 students from general merit got in. That is around 74.96%. So even without this, the OBCs, SC, STs, roughly 17.99% of OBCs, 4.72% of SCs, 2.33% of STs, they were able to get it under their own merit. So this is one remarkable thing. So out of 50%, what I am seeing is that 25% of the students got on their own merit. So this is a very important finding in the paper. So it is not that all the students require reservation. So 25% of them would have got it even if reservation were not there. So this is a very important thing. Now let us take what is the impact of the admissions with reservation policy. So now you can see that the OBC representation actually increased to 36.44%. SCs, especially the representation increased from 4.70 to 16.35%. That is 3 times. The impact of reservation policy is 3 times. More people are coming to the campus. So if there was no reservation policy, this would have been avoided. Now STs, 3.5 times, that is, it has increased from 2.33 to 8.32. So now this is where we are coming, that why reservation is very important, and then why reservation even today is so much important. And then we keep hearing about a lot of negative connotations about reservation, but I seriously feel that this is the only way to increase representation for these marginalized groups. So some of the key conclusions from these discussions today, my friends, are that the representation of SC, ST, OBCs is increasing in higher education universities. The composite reservation implementation index has increased substantially. However, still around 14.3% of the seats are going vacant. It is better to have a yearly target to monitor these gaps and make an online dashboard to ensure that reservation implementation index equals to 1 in almost all universities. So universities with less than reservation implementation index of 0.5 need specific focus. We need to have a clear-cut action plan for the next 5 years on how to improve the conditions. And if any legal hurdles are there, the same should also be addressed. Now, around 25% of SC, ST, OBCs make it through their own merit. That is clearly visible from this data. And these students should be recognized and encouraged to take up higher education in foreign universities at affordable cost. The talented ones should be nurtured for future leadership roles. So there should be a clear-cut organization looking into how to nurture this talent. It is also clear that SC, ST need reservation to increase their presence. The initial push should be there to ensure that more and more students complete higher education and hence achieve success. The GER, especially for reserve category, should go up. That is, the gross enrollment ratio should go up to 50%, and this will ensure a larger pool available, and hence the cutoffs will reduce over a period of time, since the disabilities arising because of initial years would be solved. So if we increase the GER to 50%, I think all the issues of cutoffs will be going off. So correspondingly, the scarcity issue in engineering and other thing will also be not there. So more and more students will come and join. Again, global research now shows that the dropout for especially candidates from affirmative action. In the US, they have done some research and they found out that the dropout was more in math and STEM education. So these students should be given more an option to switch to liberal arts or other easier areas where they can at least become a graduate and take a step forward, and then they can make a life. Now, finally, friends, my main conclusion is this: we need to take some good example of America and aim for a gross enrollment ratio of 80% in the next 10 years. So this will build greater intellectual ability among the reserve category, and then this will be a great asset. So with that, friend,